Hola, Georgetown University. Hola. I'm so happy to be here. I'm thrilled to be here and join you to discuss how we can pioneer, break barriers, and move the world forward. My name is Gaby Natale. I am a triple Emmy Award-winning journalist, author, speaker. Thank you. Thank you. And when the Women Entrepreneurship Forum invited me to be a part of this day, I started thinking about what I can share to make a contribution to this international, global network of entrepreneurial women. And I realized that being today here in Georgetown is a full circle for me, because one of the most significant and early lessons that I learned in my journey as a professional and as an entrepreneur happened only 20 minutes from here, 20 years ago. And it was a day, it was my first week living in the United States. I just arrived from Argentina. And it was a day when I went to a Subway restaurant to order a sandwich. And my choice of restaurant was no accident. I deliberately chose Subway because I knew that was the kind of restaurant where you can order without having to speak perfect English. I could just point at the ingredients and make it happen. So I pointed at the ham and I got ham. I pointed at the bread and I got bread. I was feeling pretty accomplished until the unexpected happened. The lady who was preparing my sandwich opened her mouth and said a word I never heard before. Pepper jack cheese. Pepper jack cheese? Pepper jack cheese. And the more she repeated it, the more impatient she got, until she finally screamed for the whole store to hear, "Jesus Christ, lady, pepper jack cheese." And the store went quiet, and I could literally feel all eyes on me. And right then and there, I felt so small, so humiliated over a single random word that I did not know, that I started crying and I left the store. And as I was walking by the people in the line, I recognized the look, the eye-rolling look that I have seen so many times in the supermarket when I did not know how to work the self-checkout lane, or so many times in the metro when I did not know how to start my metro card, how to set up my metro card. The eye-rolling look that said, "She's so stupid, huh? She's so stupid," because people confuse being new with being stupid. And as I was leaving the store and I put my hand in my pocket to reach for a Kleenex, I found a different kind of paper. This time, I found the boarding pass that I had used just a week before to come to the United States from Argentina. And I remembered a different kind of look. This time, it was the bittersweet look of my parents in the airport when they came to say goodbye. And it was that bittersweet look that only parents can make. A look that says, "I am sad to see you go, but I am proud to see you grow. There goes my daughter. She's a young lady with a bright future." And I realized that day that I had to make a decision about the most important look of all, my own. How was I going to choose to see myself from that day on? Who was I? The sandwichless loser from Subway? The one who shrinks and shies away when somebody looks down at her? Or was I the other one, the young lady with a bright future, the one who graduated in Argentina with a master's degree in spite of 20% unemployment? And I chose that day that I was going to be the young lady with a bright future, even if nobody at the time could see it. And I understand and I learned that if I wanted to be respected, I had to respect myself first. If I wanted to be valued, I had to value myself first. And if I wanted to be chosen, I had to choose myself first. And that is a lesson that guided me throughout my journey as an immigrant, as a professional, and of course, as an entrepreneur. But even 20 years later, when I go back to that pepper jack cheese fiasco day, one mystery still lingers. Now, I know what cheese is, and I know what pepper is, but who the hell is Jack? I'm still trying to figure that part out. And on that note, thank you. And on that note, I want to introduce my guests, my panelists for today, because we have a treat for you. We have a very interesting panel. We're going to discuss entrepreneurial development opportunities. So please welcome my panelists. We are going to be joined by Mark Madrid. He is the Assistant Administrator of the SBA. Welcome. Angelique Sina, founder of Metro Women's Center. Bienvenida. Thank you. And last but not least, Sergio Fernandez de Córdoba. He's the chairman of Public Foundation and a permanent observer to the United Nations. Welcome. Mark. So, first question here. Why are small businesses important? And of course, we're going to start with you, Mark, being the SBA president here.
Thank you, and what a great story that was, right? I'll never forget that story. You shared it brilliantly. You painted that picture for us. And welcome, everyone, to this important event. Happy Women's History Month. And if I may, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur or you're a woman-owned business, can you please stand to be recognized? Aspiring or current. That's it. That is the spirit. That is the spirit. And I'll keep this to about 2 minutes because I want to make sure that we get to the rest of our topics, but I'm the Associate Administrator for the United States Small Business Administration. So I lead a large office at the SBA, the Office of Entrepreneurial Development. So we oversee all the technical assistance, a primary part of it throughout the U.S., also education, cybersecurity efforts, executive level training sessions for our women-owned businesses and our small businesses across the U.S. And I report directly to the one and only and remarkable 27th Administrator of the U.S. SBA, Isabella Casillas Guzman. And so, let me just throw out some facts, right? Because it's important to have data. And I was so incredibly blessed to be in a room with the Administrator and President Biden just 2 or 3 days ago. And what I have in my hands is the latest fact sheet, and you can download it right now on whitehouse.gov. It's the fact sheet on President Biden announces new resources to support women small business owners' continued commitment to supporting America's entrepreneurs. Yes, yes. And I'll tell you what that means. There's 12 million women-owned businesses today in America, employing over 10 million workers, right? And also, this administration is committed, fiercely committed to women entrepreneurs. How do we show that? Is we've invested in our Women's Business Center network. So women's business centers, and you're going to hear from Angelique on this, but more so than ever before, there's a historic amount of women's business centers offering technical assistance to women entrepreneurs across America, Puerto Rico, and U.S. territories. 160 just announced from the president just the other day, more so than any time before in the U.S. supporting women entrepreneurs. Also, this administration has infused over $70 million in support of these women's business centers. And also the SBA. It's important to know that our traditional loan products, who knows about our 7A loan or our 504? Okay, a couple. So I'm glad I'm here, Gabi, because it's important to know how to close access to capital resource, gaps that we have. But if you go to sba.gov, like Small Business Administration, You'll know right then and there, because knowledge is power, right? You'll know our eligibility requirements for microloans. So microloans are loan amounts under $50,000. You'll get to know the eligibility requirements for our 7A loans, which require a little bit of collateral. And then you'll get to know the eligibility requirements of our 504 loans. And this is where I'll close with a testimony. A 504 loan is that loan that you're going to potentially acquire when you want to own your own building, or you want to purchase that massive equipment that you've been dreaming about. I'll close with the testimony. There's a woman-owned business that did not know the navigation through acquiring capital. But she said, you know what? What I do know is that no one can ever take education from me. So I'm going to learn. So the lessons that I just described to you, she took it to heart. Now, she didn't need to be the master of that domain in terms of being her, she was the CFO, the CEO, the CMO, the fill in the blank O. But she said, you know what? Right now I have a bookkeeper. Now she has a CFO. But 20 years ago, she had a bookkeeper. I said, can you help me understand these eligibility requirements? Because one day I want to own my own building. So she got on the path because she didn't have credit. We're going to talk about that. She learned how to elevate her credit score, and she got that first microloan. I think it was under $20,000. Then she graduated to a 7A loan because she had done the work and studied what it took to get that particular loan at that attractive interest rate. That particular loan was more along the lines of $100,000. And then about 10 years later, she said, this is the one I've been wanting for a long time, this 504, because I'm tired of leasing these hundreds of thousands now into the millions. I want to own my own building. But what did she do? She resource mobilized, and she got a community development corporation to help her, a CDFI. Her banker, she also, we're going to talk about the different options. She leveraged a community bank. And now today, that woman-owned business, in terms of waste management, she calls herself the queen of waste, Maria Rios. And she has no problem being called that because she elevated, and she's the first multi-million-dollar Latinx-owned waste management company in U.S. history, right?
She's amazing.
She is amazing, and she learned government contracting. She learned all that, but it truly does take a village. So I'm just happy to be here, energized to be here, to support all of you in any way that we can, because at the bottom line is the SBA would not be here without you. It is our job to meet you where you are, everywhere you are, as our administrator says. Thank you very much.
And don't be intimidated. I know there's people coming from different cities sometimes in the United States. I am also someone who took advantage almost 20 years ago of the SBA. I was turned down, my business was turned down by 4 different banks, and it was not because I had bad credit, but because I was new in the country and I had no credit. I had this immigrant mentality of saving, and then spending, so I never contracted debt and then paid it, so they never had a track record for me. And I went to the SBA, they gave me free advice, and I learned at the time what was a credit union, which is something that is a financial institution that can help you even if you don't qualify for a traditional loan. So I'm also somebody who can say I benefited for all this free help and free information. Now, Sergio, I want your take on this. What do you think in terms of the contributions of small business owners?
Well, I actually wanted to talk about, Mr. Madrid just mentioned, with the SBA, because I actually served on the Council of Underserved Communities when it was launched in 2010 under Obama. And really the goal of this Council of Underserved Communities was, believe it or not, entrepreneurs and women was the focus. One of the reasons why I was put on that board was because we were having a lot of conversations with President Obama and the team about, this is 2008, post-2008, and a lot of us from the entrepreneur community were saying, well, you're giving Bank of America bazillions of dollars, right? $700 billion, TD Bank to manage this money, but it's never making it to the entrepreneurs. You talk about it takes a village, but what if the village has no access to capital? Right, and so therefore there is no village left, right? And when we look at today's economy, and it's exciting to see this administration really, been really embracing. And I know that they relaunched the Council of Underserved Communities just a couple of years ago, as Biden came back in, and President Biden. And, it's just really exciting to hear you because it was a real challenge back then to really, look at and create these sort of vehicles for women, minorities, and entrepreneurs. And it was interesting that it was all grouped under this sort of underserved community, but to me, it's the fabric of what makes this country great. It's entrepreneurship. It's built on small businesses, and not small businesses over 50 million. It's the small businesses that are powering our communities, that are powering everything that we do on a daily basis. When we go to the store, we go to the laundromat, when we go, get our websites done, all these different businesses. And I think that, today we're just such a digital economy. I think there's we've kind of almost gone since 2010 to now way too digital. Right, that we've forgotten the sort of grassroots. All politics is local, right? All communities are local, right? And everybody's jumping to Web3, but what about what's happening in our local communities?
Your family restaurants,
Yeah, everything.
shops,
The mom and pop shops, main streets are dead across America, across the world, right? But let's just focus on America, right? And the main streets are dead, right? And when I look at, the work that, Mark and his team and everybody at the SBA is doing, I think that, it's probably one of the most monumental moments in time right now, right? There's a lot of resources now. There's a lot of things that we've learned over the last 10 years and over digitization, if you will, but the tools are there. But I think there really needs to be a very hyper local focus, right? Because that's where the real business happens. That's where that woman, the champion that you talked about, she didn't build it overnight and just opened up a website. It was years and years and years and years. It's a great story, but it's when somebody says, wow, you're so lucky. No, she's not. She's dedicated her life, her heart, her soul, her family, right? And 20 years of this. And I think that the advantage that all of you have aspiring, I think everyone here if you're here, you're an aspiring entrepreneur or an entrepreneur. So everybody should have stood up, right? And I think that there are, such an enormous amount of tools today, and it's not just the SBA's responsibility, right? There is so much out there that you could just literally copy, paste, and figure out how to apply that locally and localize it, right? That's like a new term now, localize things. I've been doing this for 30 years, and to me, I've watched that evolution of non-digital to over digital to now back to, to how are we helping our communities thrive and pick each other up and work together, right? We're going to the internet so I could find her and she's across the street.
Exactly. So Angelique, what's your take? Because you have a female lens on everything that we're talking today. So what's your take on this, the contributions of small business owners? We know women in general and Latinas in particular, we over-index in the start of businesses.
Yes, definitely. Latinas are starting businesses at a higher rate. Mark shared the data that it's 40% of women-owned businesses. We're employing jobs, but we need more. We need more small businesses that are founded by women to the level that they surpass and are no longer a small business. I am the founder of the Metro Women's Business Center, and we offer the service in Puerto Rico and now in DC, and mostly in Spanish, of helping any person, it could be a man or a woman, but most importantly, help launch and grow that business. A lot of it comes to not having access to those networks and the capital, and those two are really essential to really the growth of your business.
Angelique, since I have you here and you have this female lens, I think when it comes to entrepreneurship, money in general, a successful woman or an ambitious woman, ambiciosa, there's a love-hate relationship sometimes with those words, because women are admired when they succeed, but sometimes they're also penalized. So how can we better prepare ourselves emotionally, mentally, and choosing the right partners along the way that are not going to sabotage our own journey?
That is a very complex question. I think a lot of it is you need to be comfortable as a founder. And I think if I wear different hats, when people ask me, well, I think my biggest trait and title will always be is that I'm a founder. I can build something. You have to get comfortable with that leadership style that you will bring, your tone, how will you react, how will you communicate and nurture those networks, and then educate those around you, starting by your kids, if you have little ones, your partner, and then just having that cycle of education, because it is okay to be powerful and to be a decision maker, and you have to get comfortable with that.
Absolutely. So, Mark, how can we help our audience not just start, but scale their businesses and eventually compete in a global market?
I love it. And I'm just full of stories and accounts from the street. And right now I'm thinking about a cupcake business that I visited in Portland, Oregon. And I'll use that as an example to answer your question. Because when I got to know the daughter who had taken over the business, right? She took over the business from her mother. And we were meeting with her, and we said the national spotlight is on sweet frostings today. And wouldn't you know it, that her mother was back in the kitchen. And right away I saw continuity of passion, continuity of traditions. But I asked her after an hour-long sit-down session that included the most wonderful cupcakes I've ever had, really, as I said, what is your vision for 5 years from now? She said, Mr. Madrid, I'm just trying to eke out a profit. You know, and I thought that was so raw and true about our small businesses handling the economic challenges of today. It wasn't that we're going to open our third location or that we want to hire 20 more people. We're trying to eke out a profit right now. And in so doing, trying to take care of our people, because workforce development, hiring and recruitment has become the number one issue for many small businesses, especially if you have under 5 employees. It used to be about customer acquisition and retention. So all they were doing is they had just instituted free covered parking for their employees. And for the first time in the history of that place, that had been around for over 20 years, they were offering benefits because they couldn't compete with the big brands, they thought, until they just took a look at their cost structure, started managing their cash flows. But that took education too, because she mentioned that she thought the statement of cash flows was the balance sheet. And so that education of itself and mitigating cost was her main charge for this day, eking out a profit. So I think it's about starting your business, about striking that passion meter, but what are foundations and principles are you going to lay down to be the undergirth and foundation of that business? But then there's growth of a business, which is different than scaling of a business. So understanding those philosophies, and you know that saying, it's all about the timing. Projecting what the appropriate time is to add that employee, to add those benefits, to purchase that equipment. And also look at the foray of diversifying your revenue. Right now, more so than ever, the pandemic taught us, there's not a lot of silver linings of the pandemic. I lost my father to the pandemic, and he was a small business owner. He erected a welding business from hoeing cotton in the cotton fields as a migrant farm worker. But it's tough, right? A lot of women-owned businesses, out of survival, have had to position themselves to break digital divides and to go into e-commerce.
Leapfrog.
That's right, leapfrog, that's right. It's been a leapfrog experience, and that subjects you to cybersecurity risks. It subjects you to an unknown territory. How to diversify product lines. I've seen some magnificent innovations that have come of the pandemic. The last thing I'll say is it's about pivoting and agility, but without a structure of knowledge and support, I've seen a lot of folks fail. And so I heard something just the other day at the White House. And she's a pretty prolific CEO, the CEO of Spanx. And she said, you know what? I hired for all my weaknesses. That's how I got to this place.
Great tip, great tip. Angelique, what's your take on this? How can we prepare these women that you are serving, that you are advising, not just to start, but also to scale and eventually, like the CEO of Spanx, conquer the planet?
Oh, they need to come. They need to, visit our centers or any other centers or across all of the United States, Hawaii and Puerto Rico. And you need to not give up. I always tell them you need to hustle. It's about the grind. And you need to be super focused on just growing your business and not giving up.
And before we move to the last question, Sergio, what's your take? How do you think it's one of the key things that we may be overseeing to help them scale?
Well, I think that, as I said before, the resources are out there, right? I think when you're building an idea, one of the things that we always say is think big, right? Act small, but do it now. Most important, because there's never the right time to start something. right? Number one. Number two, partner, 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 partner. There's no ego in building a business if you want success, right? If not, just buy yourself a trophy and put it on your wall and just say, I started this business and it went nowhere, right? Don't fall in love with your idea. Again, don't let ego take control of a vision that can actually scale. And that's really,
Be your own devil's advocate for your product, for your
well, yeah,
idea.
not just that, but like literally don't fall in love that you're so blinded, right? We know love, we're all, everybody that's a Latino here, we fall in love. And, and the thing is that you have to understand that in order to evolve, right, this child needs to get out there. And it needs to find partners and have somebody, not just you be your own devil's advocate, but you be my devil's advocate. And tell me, what do you see? What do you see that could do it better? Right. Also, always be fundraising. Everyone says, I'm doing okay. I don't want to grow, but you never know when you're going to need capital, right? And you never know when the right capital shows up. And it's not going to be when you need it. It's going to be when you don't need it. Trust me, 99% of the time, it shows up when you don't need it and you're not paying attention, right? And then also, as you were saying before, surround yourself with people smarter than you. Trust me, it's not a bad thing. It actually makes you smarter because you're surrounding yourself with people smarter. There's an abundant amount of capital, resources, and I think that if you're out there looking for it, you're going to find it as long as you're open to it, right? And then access to debt is usually an issue, so that's why you want to always look and identify so that you just have it on speed dial.
Perfect. Now, in 30 seconds, we're very challenged with the time in this last one, best practices. So best practices for all our small business owners in a wide sense. Any advice or best practice that you would like to share to close? Mark, your
Absolutely. In 30 seconds or less, keep striking that passion meter, but surround yourself by knowledge because knowledge is power. And just know that you are tremendous. You're fueling this American economy. Now in 2021, you were almost half of all the new business started in this country. And I dare say that you're going to be surpassed and you're going to be the majority very soon. So I would say, let your light shine. But there are resources around you, and we're here, SBA.gov, SBA.gov. Please go there. Thank you.
Thank you. Sergio, 30 seconds or less, your best practices?
I think get started, do it now. And best practices is in any entrepreneurial venture I've been involved in is just literally go find all the experts around you and get started. Time is your worst enemy, right? And you have all the tools, use them, right? He's giving you a website, use them, right? She has a platform, use it, right? Go call your friends and socialize it. I think one of the most important things too, everyone gets caught up, and all of us, especially, I'm an immigrant, I came from another country, and the same as a minority, you just don't want to share it because you feel somebody's going to say you're stupid, as you talked about in your line. And it's like, no, don't socialize it, talk about it. I think that's really the most important part is believe that you are going to do it because you will.
Perfect. Angelique?
Well, ask for funding or money when you don't need it, and then double the amount. And sell, sell, sell. You're always selling.
Exactly. A big round of applause to my panelists, Mark, Angelique, Sergio. Thank you so much.